Good afternoon, Bryan College Station. Welcome to the Beliucci Hour lunch live on Sports Radio 1150 The Zone, 93.7 FM. I almost screwed it up again. I'm still getting the hang of that. Ryan Brauninger and Beliucci on stage here at the Tap on Harvey Road, as we are every Monday and Thursday, to talk all things Texas A&M sports and athletics till 1 o'clock, and we shoot it back over to the Louis Bellina Show. If you're driving around looking for a place to come grab lunch, come check out the Tap's great lunch menu. $8.49 burger basket, and there's quite a few folks here today, so I can't see the big board, so you'll have to come in and see for yourself what the other lunch special is. Good crowd here for a Thursday afternoon, a beautiful, gorgeous Thursday afternoon in Aggieland, and the best thing that this establishment has done in the last 5 years of their existence is they've taken the front table, they've moved it perpendicular to the stage, and moved them back. I can only imagine how angry these people were this morning. The other blackened chicken sandwich, as long with that burger basket, that's the other special. Thank you, Tyler, for bringing that to me. Blackened chicken sandwich, fries and drinks. Oh, look, now they're going to move their chairs so that oh, God, you guys are something else. You know, the best thing was that I couldn't hear y'all. We couldn't hear y'all through the mics, but we do have a lot of the TexAgs crew in the house. Had a day with TexAgs one, and so they're here. I think Gabe and Dalton are about to go back in the back and shoot some hoops, which that needs to be recorded. And, hey, can you guys not drag the chairs? I know what you guys are doing, dummies. You guys are the worst. And listen, Liucci likes to make a grand entrance, and, he's here now. But here's what he's done today. He's been here since about 11:50. When I walked up, he tried to run me over in the parking lot out there. Actually accelerated his vehicle and swerved to almost hit me. So he's been sitting in his car trying to make a grand entrance. So this wasn't a timing thing. This was a Billy ego thing that he's done hit for. So everybody can see him walk in. Hey, everybody clap for Billy. Here he comes. Everybody. That's what he lives off of. That's the only reason why he walked in late. He's been here for 20 minutes. You got your round of applause. Here, I'll pull the chair out for you. They just cleaned your table.
First couple things. Why are the tables so messed up?
No. Are you not happy with this? We won't be able to hear everything they say.
It's weird. Number two, it's not my ego thing. It's your insecurity thing. I'm literally sitting out on the phone doing business for TexAgs, and
I told Dalton, I said, he's
in his car
listening.
Then I never do. I would never, you think I would listen to you on air by yourself?
You do it all the time. You've admitted to that.
No, I never do. Literally never have. Not one time.
So unless you're on the radio, you don't listen to anything that goes on this radio station?
Well, I said you.
Oh.
And second, I try not to listen to TexAgs radio because Gabe can vouch for me. The less I listen to it, the less I have to have these conversations with Gabe and micromanage him. So I don't try. I typically don't listen.
You get
unless it's Jimmy Wright, I'm not listening.
Well,
and you almost got run over earlier. You need to learn how to get out of the way of a car.
I was on the sidewalk. You accelerated like you were 16 years old back in Sugar Land through the high school parking lot with your cool car so the girls will look at you.
God, why is it all about
it's all about you all the time.
No, you're making it about me.
Well, you've done it. You've done a good job. You've done it. I'm talking about you.
This
good.
Is interesting. This is really
a lot of stuff to get to.
Guys, raise your hand if Bronny's a little worried about me.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, see?
Got a lot of stuff to get to today with the NFL draft tonight. We already got questions coming in from the audience here at the Tap about the draft tonight.
Billy, make your predictions.
Nope, I'm not going to do that. I just want to talk about do you think a guy will go to? I mean, does Eric McCoy go tonight? And is he the only guy that's got a shot to go?
I think he's the only guy that has a shot to go, yes. I guess in a wild world there could be a team that needs a tight end in the 20 to 32 range that says we think he's the best one. That the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I know people don't have Jace ranked as the best, but I guess there could be a team like everybody says the Patriots. We've seen him in some mocks.
And they had the Hokinson kid up pretty high.
Yeah.
In the top 15.
Yeah.
And so I think is bizarre.
He doesn't. In today's NFL, he doesn't do it for me quite as much.
I think he's getting a bump because he's an Iowa tight end, and Iowa tight ends have been pretty successful.
Yeah, and then a lot of them turn into tackles, while they're at Iowa, I guess. But Man, I think McCoy is just flip a coin. If you make me predict, I'm going to predict early second on him. But I would have done the same thing with Fetty a couple years ago, and he snuck into the late first. I thought Christian Kirk could sneak in the late first, and he was the second. So he's right there on that borderline. So it really is anybody's guess. So McCoy would be the one guy tonight that is going to be jumpy every time that phone rings.
If you, Billy Liucci, were selling Eric McCoy to an NFL team tonight, what would you tell that GM about what they'd be getting? How would you sell Eric?
I would say he's the best center I've seen play at A&M, and that's saying something. Now, I didn't see the guys in the 80s, but, I mean, Seth McKinney was freaking – people underestimate, two-time All-Big 12 pick. But McCoy just has – the size, he's got the footwork, he's got the tenacity that like Seth had. He's got all kinds of experience against the best. Look at who he played this year. I mean, you go back and look, and whether it's Jeffrey Simmons or Quinnen Williams or the guys at Clemson. I mean, this guy is battle-tested like no other. He's very smart. He's a leader. He's a locker room guy. If you get to know him, he's really funny. His teammates love him. Again, I said it when he entered the draft. If you need, or at the combine, if you need a center, draft Eric McCoy. He's your guy for the next 12 years.
I think what
and he's also durable. He played through injuries. He didn't have anything major. So he's also very durable.
When these guys are investing this kind of money in these players, I think what you're getting at and what's appealing to NFL GMs is that the word I had written down was low risk.
Yeah.
He's low risk. You're going to get 6, 7, 8 years out of him at least as a reliable dude.
Bronny, he's low risk, high reward too, though, which is what you always want in anything.
Yeah.
Because he has the potential to be like a Pro Bowl center for a long. There's nothing physically that he lacks.
Right.
There's nothing mentally that he lacks. There's nothing on tape that he lacks. There's nothing work ethic or strength-wise that he lacks. And on top of all that, he can play guard easily. Some of these centers, their body type dictates that they're probably going to have to stay at center. McCoy is built like, he can be a Pro Bowl guard as well.
Yep.
So he can play one of 3 positions on your line. So
and I think
check every box.
When you look at the Aggies that are going to be going into the draft this weekend, I think Eric, he's the hardest one to say anything negative about. And I think if you wanted to critique the other guys' games, you could. Eric's is just so tough.
Yeah.
He's so well-rounded. Like, you went over all this stuff. There's just very little things to chip at if you want to be critical of him. Now, there are even
Christian Kirk, who we all knew was going to be really good, which he was. If you're drafting him, even him you could have chipped at.
Small hands.
Small hands, and they didn't think he had the most consistent hands, and they wondered about, did he have that take the top off speed. We watched him for 3 years, so we knew none of that mattered. Mm-hmm. We knew that, hey, look, at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want about him, but we've seen the guy play. He's going to be a stud in the NFL. He was a stud in high school. He was a stud in college against the best opposition. But if you wanted to chip at him to justify taking him in round 2 and round 1 as opposed to round 1, I could at least see, I would say you're wrong, but I could see where you would do that. Eric McCoy, you can't do that anywhere.
Well, and I have problems picking apart Jace. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how Jace is not closer, at least, to that conversation in the first round.
Okay, Jace, if you wanted a blocking, if you had a need for a blocking tight end, let's say you were a team, and I'm not saying Jace can't block. Jace is going to be a good blocker. He played 1 year of college football where they were asking him to be a blocker, and he got better as the year went on. He also added size and strength since he's now like well north of 250. He can do it, but if you're saying we need a block, like let's say you're a team that has a guy with the same skill set as Jace. He's a pass catcher. He's dynamic in the passing game, and you might be sitting there going, Man, you know what? This Sternberger kid is better than the guy we've got, but the guy we've got is fine. Mm-hmm. You get that?
Right.
That's so. I don't think teams are saying, "Oh, Jace can't." But if the guy we've got is fine, maybe Sternberger's better.
The need is.
But we need someone that's just what they do is block, because we've got that guy. He ain't as good as Jace, but he's good, and we got him. So that's why I think teams would go with maybe a tight end over Sternberger. But if you're going for him, if you're picking a tight end that you want to make plays and be a threat in the passing game and make plays against NFL DBs and that understands routes and that understands things like leverage and how to use his body and it's difficult to tackle after the catch, I don't think there's one better. There's not. It's not Irv Smith, and Irv will probably go higher than Jace, probably, but it's not him. I don't think it's Hawkinson. I don't think it's, the guy at UCLA, Caleb. I just think in terms of if you want a pass-catching tight end, and I do think he'll be able to block adequately in the NFL. Jace is your guy. But it's going to be interesting. I think it's clear who's going to go first at tight end. And after that, I think it gets really interesting.
Let's talk more draft. So take an early break. We'll talk a lot more draft stuff on the other side of the break. You listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on the Zone.
There are
physical exertion from Billy Liucci during the break. Shootout in the corner of the tap. Another reason to come and check out what they got going on down here. But Billy Liucci and Dalton Hughes in a battle of the greatest jump shots of our generation, one-on-one. And
I'm sure you're a damn marksman, aren't you?
I
Steph Curry.
I gave you a compliment. I can guarantee you it looks better
Steph
than yours.
Brawny.
I bet yours looks like a slingshot.
Steph Brawny.
Hey, don't forget, if you're planning on watching Aggie.
And when I was, on the basketball court, what I would have done to you would have been humiliating. And you can ask
I'm not
anyone,
in great shape.
You can ask anyone that's seen the left-handed hook shot from back in the day.
Well, if that's what you're
like a Jabbar.
That's your go-to. That's some.
Bronny, I would swat your stuff from this side of the tap to the other. Like Gabe would catch it in the back.
You talk.
I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying. You talk at a 45-year-old guy and run your mouth.
I gave
if
you
I
a
would have
compliment.
picked out someone at your age and targeted someone at damn near 50, God, I was going after like 20-year-olds challenging them.
Well, the last athletic thing.
And I mean that insert joke there. I get it. I get it.
You talked yourself into that one. Hey,
you gonna eat those or just watch them?
You called me the other day, and you called me a Flemish shelf.
Yeah.
Why did you call me the Flemish shelf?
Flemish cap.
Flemish
because
cap.
I was watching the movie. What's that movie called? With Clooney and Wahlberg. Perfect Storm.
Oh.
It was storming out. Perfect Storm was on. And they were sailing to the Flemish cap, and you just sounded like a name to call you.
Hey, don't forget if you're trying to catch
Flemish.
If you're trying to catch Aggie baseball tonight at Oxford at Ole Miss, they've moved that start time back to 8 o'clock. But we've got to talk a lot more with this NFL draft. Big series on the road, especially with Mississippi State and Arkansas on the docket still. And if A&M finishes this deal with 12 conference games left, if they finish this deal 6-6, they're a national. They're maybe not a national seed, but they're definitely a regional host.
At 6-6, which would put them at what, 17 and 12 and 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if they were to go 7 and 5, if they were to go 7 and 5, I think that would. I don't think an 18 and 12-ish tie, whatever, 18 and 12-ish SEC team gets knocked out of.
Well, the RPI is going to be
knocked
good.
out of. I mean, I think they very well would. I'd be very surprised if they weren't a national seed, wouldn't you?
If they finish with 12 conference losses, that typically wins. That's about the number that wins the West, at least. Who knows what's going to happen in the East with Georgia and Vandy. Got some questions coming in from here at the tap, and this one of them, Luch, will the Aggies have more players drafted this week than the entire Big 12?
I haven't studied if the Big 12. A&M, I think
I doubt it.
In a dream scenario, however you like to say that word, I think A&M would get, 8 in their like perfect world, but more likely, can you get to 6? Can you break the A&M record and go 7? That would be. I think that's kind of like. It's kind of about as high as you go. I'm pretty sure the Big 12 will have more than that.
Well, they'll have.
But I mean, they're going to be dead. They're going to be dead last. Don't get me wrong. They're going to be dead last of all the major conferences probably again. I guess the Pac-12 will have something to say about that. But
and then I want
OU's carrying that conference though because they got
linemen and Kyler and Hollywood Brown.
They probably got 6. They probably got 4 O linemen, 3 or 4 O linemen, Kyler and Hollywood. And so you're already
pushing it. And Texas got some guys that'll be drafted.
Yeah, not a lot.
Yeah, I would think 3, maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much you know about the Texans and the Cowboys, but to keep everything local, is there any one of these guys that you think could land it? Because John Harris on TexAgs Radio said he'd love to see the Texans take Travion. But I thought there was a little bit of a crowded backfield already. But he said they need somebody that does what Travion does.
The Texans are interested in Travion. I think the Cowboys are very interested in Jace. The Texans are very interested in Gilly in a late round scenario. So, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw a couple of Aggies go to these, to the state teams.
Well,
Maybe
the question
1-8.
was, could Jace be around at 58 when Dallas picks? And
Yeah, he very well could.
yeah, I mean, I think that's about the range that he's been projected at and looked at. But again, we don't know what happens behind these closed-door meetings and who some of these scouts just fall in love with guys. Mm-hmm. That's why these things are so, there's so many.
And let me tell you, the thing is, when they fall in love with them, that's when they're the most quiet about it, especially outside of the first round. Mm-hmm. Because this is when it gets real. You can kind of predict, for better or worse, within reason, how the first round's going to go. But if you got a guy like, say, Jace, and you're going, man, if he's around in the third round, we're going to take him. Then you're getting pretty antsy watching the second round. And then when the third round comes around, you're getting real antsy. And there might be a team in the late third that's like, we're going to take him here. But if they knew you at Kansas City was going to take, let's say you're going to take Travion Williams in the fourth round if you're the Chiefs, and I'm sitting here as the Texans, and I'm going, I want to get him late fourth, and Kansas City's picking 10 picks ahead. Well, obviously it behooves you to not let that out because the Texans could easily trade up ahead of you. So there's so much gamesmanship going on that outside of the first round, it becomes damn near impossible to pick, and that's why you see so many people call these guys a third or fourth rounder, second or third rounder, because you can slide 15 picks like that. I saw it happen to two of my good friends, and Steve McKinney and Hunter Goodwin.
What happened to Johnny?
I saw Hunter punch a hole in the wall.
Did he really?
Yeah, and Johnny was interesting too because the Browns passed on him, and the Chiefs and Andy Reid were prepared to draft him, and they were coming right up, and then the Browns swooped in and got him. But I'm saying, like, I've seen, Steve was getting phone calls in the second round, early second, multiple teams saying, we're going to pick you on our next pick in the second. And then that was when the first night of the draft was 3 rounds. Mm-hmm. He had to go to sleep not being picked, and he was the first pick of the fourth round because they looked at the draft board and the Colts traded up to get him because he was clearly the best player left in the entire draft. He got overlooked because a run went on. They were about to draft him, and then everybody started saying, oh, crap, all the whatever, I'm making up a position, all the corners are going off the board. Mm-hmm. So maybe 2-3 teams that would have drafted him felt this pressure to draft a corner, and there he went.
All right, well, let's go through this. I am going to make you predict, okay?
I just thought we weren't going to do that.
Well, I
already did it. Can we do something else?
I didn't know you did it. I don't
Go
listen
ahead.
to you on the radio.
Rapid fire.
Well, just throw a round at me, Travion.
I mean, again, third, fourth. I know it doesn't matter, but it's just like, this is bad radio. Go ahead.
All right, we can change it. You did a huge interview with Jimbo. We can talk about that.
Let's talk about that. Well, Here you go. Travion, third, fourth. Kingsley, Kiki.
Those are the ones that we haven't talked about. Do they get
I'm going to make
drafted?
A fourth-round prediction. I think Dalen goes
Donovan.
Fourth, fifth. I think Dono and Alaka. I think Dodson will get picked late. I think Dono, Alaka, and Sutherland. I think Gilly will get picked really late, last couple rounds. I think Dono, Alaka, and Sutherland are the 3. And even Landis Durham. Those 4 guys are going to be probably sweating it out, and they have a chance. Yeah, and they have a chance to hear their names called. And if not, they'll all be free agent signees within a half hour of the draft being over.
All right, so let's close this segment with this, and on the other side, we'll go to that Jimbo.
Jace, I didn't predict. I think Jace goes, I'm going to say late second or early third for Jace.
Before for that. What
now,
are we doing? It's free agency.
Whoa, though.
Well, Justin Fields did have the baseball incident.
No. I'm not that too. Let me tap the brakes on you on this one, though. You got to also not, and you got to also, like, okay, the kid's mom being sick, that sounds 1,000% legit. There are kids that are going to say, well, my great aunt, who you barely know or comes to the family functions, is sick.
Well, Gabe mentioned
and
that
I want to
yesterday.
transfer back to College Station because it's closer to. He's got a distant aunt that's sick, and people will try to job the system on that too. So I'm fine with doing your due diligence and looking into it, but you better get it right. And if it really is a sick relative, and if it's immediate family, who are you to say? Who are you to say that a kid's, well, if a recruit's mom or dad's sick, and you're the NCAA and you rate it, well, we think on a 6 scale she's really only about a 5, like she's not near death or anything. How do you know how that's affecting a kid?
Right.
That his mom is maybe having to go to regular doctor's appointments, or that she's getting, if she's getting chemo and her hair's, how do you know how that's going to affecting an 18-year-old young man or woman? So, yeah, they need to be real careful with that.
They've got to be way more transparent too.
But also, forget guys like Tate Martell and Pryor. Don't fall for the BS. Okay? If it's obvious what they're doing, call them on it. Problem is, and here it's as simple as this.
It's the haves
the
and
people
have-nots.
with the better lawyers and the people that are going to stand up and fight it, that's when you're going to have – that's when you're going to keep getting away. The NCAA doesn't want to mess with those types. Look at Santino and his situation. Yep. Look at Tate. Look at Pryor. Go lawyer up. You'll be fine. That's the motto.
It's ridiculous. On the other side of the break, we'll look at Liucci's interview with Jimbo from the other day. You listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on The Zone.
And brewing. Learn why the Big Green Egg is the only.
Welcome back to the Tap Beliucci Hour lunch. Ryan Brauninger, Billy Liucci with you here at the Tap on Harvey Road. We continue to have questions come in from here at the Tap. But first, Luch, we want to hit on the interview you did with Jimbo, and obviously the thing that went viral and ESPN picked up was this quote about staying here for a while. And I thought, to give you credit, I thought you handled the interview very well, that you didn't lead with that. You let him talk about his team and kind of close with a bang with that statement. But just maybe a feeling you got when, Jimbo's, the words mean something, but the way he said it and that kind of deal, he just seems like a genuine guy. And I mean, who are we to take him? Everybody say, well, he's saying that's just coach speak. I didn't sound to me like coach speak, and you were there.
There's two things. Number one, there's got to be some level, and this is, I got inundated, and I'm going to stir them up today. The Longhorns won't shut the hell up. That thing got more Longhorn replies than anything because they're scared. And they would love nothing more than to see Jimbo not coaching at A&M.
Well, when A&M hired him, they all said that he was past his prime.
Yeah. And then the other part of that is that you get the typical, I'm not going to be like the rest of the Aggies. I'm going to tell it like it is on Twitter because I've established some kind of pseudo identity with my 2,000 followers and Aggies retweet me sometimes. And so I'm going to be the Aggie that steps up and says, any coach would say that. You pay me $75 million, I'd say that too because I keep it real. What you don't know is that not every coach says that.
I want to know why these people get a normal Liucci imitation voice and I get this southern hick drawl.
Well, if the Lucchesi fits. But my thing is, there were times where I legitimately told Kevin Sumlin, hey, why don't you say something just to, and I thought he kind of was like, yeah. And he never did. When all this USC and the NFL stuff would come up, he never would just say, I love it here. Like Bob Stoops used to say, I love it here. I'm not going anywhere. I love it. And I thought Jimbo said it perfectly because he does love it here. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect right now because he had an AD that he really liked and worked well with up and left, and I'm not blaming Scott Woodward, but the fact is that, in a matter of, at best days, he was gone. So that's not a perfect situation for Jimbo. Now, he's going to have a big say in the AD, and they're going to get an AD in here that he likes and is excited about, and then it's probably a perfect situation again. But here's the thing where he walked in, and Scott Woodward was a big reason why he came here. And I don't think there was maybe any other AD out there that could have gotten him at that time. So Scott was the perfect man at the perfect time to get Jimbo Fisher. But you get him here, it's like your buddy introducing you to at the time, is just a girl. Well, then you fall in love with that girl and you marry her.
Relationship advice from two single guys.
Yeah. It sounds like a show. Two single guys with relationship advice. But it is. It's like So Jimbo Fisher has he came to be acquainted with A&M through Scott Woodward. Okay? If your buddy moves off overseas and you don't talk to him anymore, does that mean you fall out of love with the woman he introduced you to? Like, Texas A&M gives Jimbo Fisher everything he wants, everything he needs to be successful. It's a perfect fit, like he said. He fits this place perfectly. I know what he said came 100% from the heart. B, I know for him to answer that question like that, he was also – it mattered to him to kind of reassure the A&M fans. Because you guys and the TexAgs and Twitter and all the people wearing the Aggie ring and the 12th man fan, everybody, he gets this place. He understands, hey, everybody needs to hear that right now. I'm good. Like it and the other thing about the Scott-Jimbo connection, and everybody's trying to make more of it than it is, it's a good friendship. It's a long-time friendship. But if people act as if Jimbo Fisher, there's not another athletic director in college sports that the man can work for. That's ridiculous, and it's insulting. I think, not that Jimbo has time to worry about stuff like that, but I find it kind of insulting. Like, and by the way, if you're going to hire him, you better back up a Brinks truck and then some. So it's not. I'm not worried about it. I do think it was important. And I'm very happy that Jimbo Fisher answered that question the way he did. On every level, too, on every level. And I liked what he said about, this is a business, for paraphrasing, this is a business where things are always changing. Mm-hmm. And he's a pro. He's one of the best at doing this thing. You adjust with change. What doesn't change is Texas A&M. And what he's got here and what he's got a chance to build. Biggest team stuff maybe that you took away, a couple of highlights that you took away from what he said about his 2019 squad. Well, I thought him saying that they were going to sign a big recruiting class was an attention grabber. And then he also said, they've got some guys that they're hearing all the right stuff from, and you and I have been kind of saying that. There's dudes that are – there's about 4 out there that are kind of – I hate the silent commit thing when they're still doing stuff, but I mean they're close to coming, jumping on board. He sounded optimistic there. As far as the team went, I love the way he talks about Kellen now. Kellen's progression, and we said it over and over, but he believes in him. Mm-hmm. And tight ends, he sounded very impressed with him. I liked what he was talking about when we talked about the defensive backs. And that's what I wrote down. Devin Morris, he brought up by name. And that's just like Deneric Prince when he did earlier in the spring. He brought up Deneric again. Those two names were not the most highly recruited Cabote kid. Yeah, and he did not mention. Many people talked about not the spring game, but the scrimmage before that. Mm-hmm. So if in 2 of your last 3 scrimmages he goes for 100 yards, you don't think that changes his playing time outlook going into fall camp? Yeah, sure it does. I think the running back position, and like you said, they feel really good about that. But the defensive backs, and my question is, does Devin Morris, and I think there's no doubt he's probably taken another step in his development, but is it because those receivers are out all fall? So I think it's a really good and encouraging sign for Devin himself and for the A&M defensive backfield. But I think he'll have to continue that, when everybody's healthy come fall camp. But, I mean, you could also see him emerging as like a Ronnie Elam did last season. Deshaun Caper-Smith. Getting some playing time, getting some meaningful playing time. The backup quarterback, he didn't give too much away. No. Just like you thought he would. Yeah. I thought he was really encouraged with the offensive line. Yeah, more so than I thought. Yeah, a little more encouraged than I would have been at this point. Which is he was more encouraged than I would have been encouraged, which is encouraging. Right, but he sees him every day, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, McCollum had a I'm telling you, you can tell from talking. He thinks Jared Hocker can be really good, and with Hocker, it's just about being being and staying healthy. So. If you look at that interior, McCollum has really started to prove himself. and then some. And Hawker, and if Matthews, I think will factor in there. I think absolutely he will. Tank Jenkins started spring strong. He has a chance to factor in.
Here comes Kenyon.
And then Kenyon Green. I mean, and then, who knows what will happen if Grayson Reed will bounce back. But that's at least 5 guys there in those interior 3 spots. So, and Prater, you got to count him as – and I think he, and at the end of the day, he ends up being a depth guy. But that's fine. When you're talking depth on the inside and you got 6 guys – that can play, maybe 7 with Grayson Reed being a wild card. That is very, very encouraging.
On the other side of the break, we'll close the show with your questions from here at the tab. You listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on the Zone. Final segment of the show, Olsen, Saturday, April 27th, as John continues to make some really cool little upgrades and change the little ambiance in here. Got some questions from here at the tap to close the show. We see a large set of official visitors with spring period wrapping up, or will they wait till the fall? Talking about recruiting.
I don't think you'll see a ton of officials in the spring. I still don't think places would generally prefer that unless it's just the only time you really want to do it, I think, is a kid that an out-of-state kid that you think you can get committed. And then you can get him back in the fall for a game on his own. But I think if it's an out-of-state kid that you think is ready to commit, possibly, or is going to commit before you can get him, even if you think he's going to commit in June or July, but you go, we're not going to get him back for a game before he commits somewhere. That's about the only guys. And then some kids just want to, and so fine, you know.
Are you worried about recruiting right now?
No. I think it'd be nice to get some of these guys to announce and commit, though. I do think it's interesting because you don't have a lot of in-state defensive players right now that are takes for Texas A&M. It's making for a kind of a situation that I really haven't seen much of since I've been covering it. They're going to go out of state a lot, but it also makes those in-state guys like Ryan Watts that much more important. So, you know, those guys are like when they go somewhere else, it magnifies the blow a little bit.
The other question we had, over/under 8 Aggies drafted.
I'll say under, a little under. I think they could get up to 7.
I think, you outlined them. If they got 8, that'd set the record, right?
Yeah, I think the record's 6.
Aggie baseball this weekend. We mentioned a little bit of it. Move that start time back. If this team, we said they finished 6-6, does that exceed your expectations?
Yeah.
6-6,
especially if you'd have told me what's gone on with their injury situation as well.
If they get Hunter Coleman back, and I think he's going to come back quicker than some think. I think he could maybe be available for those final 2 conference series. Mm-hmm. I think that'd be an enormous deal. But people forget, and listen, this team has they've got some big holes. Like they're not infallible at all. We know what the offense is. But coming into the season, they were unranked. Now they're, consensus in the top 10 with a chance with the last 4 weekends to play for an SEC championship. Mm-hmm. People get on Rob Childress's case for his postseason stuff. And listen, I'm sure the jury's still out on that. We've got to see what happens in the regionals. And, I'd love to see this team make a run at Omaha. But his regular season stuff, he's a top 10 regular season coach in America. Because here's what the deal is. And everybody in state looks at Jim Schlossnagle at TCU, right, as kind of the guy that's sitting on the throne. They may not make the postseason this year. Texas, who went to Omaha last year, may not make the postseason. They're 5-9 in a bad conference.
Yeah.
They may not make the postseason. So I get it. I get the concerns and people that want to raise their voice about Coach Childress and the postseason stuff. I don't have to agree with it, but I'll listen to it. But the regular season stuff, you can't. It's tough to beat his model of consistency in the run he's been on.
Consistency is great in any program, in any sport. Postseason is more important. I don't think he's been as bad in the postseason as people would try to make you say. I mean, do I think they need to be more consistently appearing in Omaha like some of these other teams in the SEC? Yes.
Sure.
But, I mean, if what are the last 5 years? You had two seasons where you were a game away from Omaha, one trip to Omaha, and then somebody will just as quickly go, well, they beat Davidson. Well, I'll say, well, they should have never had to play TCU when they were probably 2 of the top 4 teams in the sport for that season. So it bounces out. So those 3, and then was it last season? Was it 3 of the last 4 years? Is that how it's gone?
No, last year they went
down
the Austin. They went to the Austin Regional.
Yeah, that was a bad one. I'm saying, but were the 3 seasons before that? Omaha was before that,
and then the 2 supers
were back to back. Yeah. So your last 4 years, you've been a game away from Omaha, a game away from Omaha.
You've been to 2 Sweet 16s and an Elite 8.
That's postseason success.
I agree. And
now
a lot of stuff still to play for right now.
If you want to take his whole body of work, then it looks less. It's 2 in like 14 years, but let's wait and see what happens this year.
Yeah, they got
because if let's say they go to a super regional and you go, well, you've been to supers 3 of the last 4 years with 1 trip to Omaha mixed in. If you go this year and go 2, then the debate's over. But if in your last 5 years after this season, you got 3 supers or really it would be 4 supers and a trip to Omaha, come on now.
We'll see you guys on Monday. Only 3 shows left. Beliucci Hour. Louis on the other side of the break.
There's a Kubota.